Mount Panorama Bathurst, without doubt the most famous racetrack in Australia. So what better place to test Australia's two most famous cars, the all-new Ford FG Falcon and of course its arch rival, the Holden Commodore. Now, no prizes for guessing that for this real-life mountain showdown we've picked the sporty versions of the Ford and the Holden, starting with the wild card of the bunch, the Falcon XR6 Turbo. Then onto two mighty V8s, the Falcon XR8 and the Commodore SSV. When it comes to good Aussie V8 muscle, there is no doubt that the Commodore SS is the king of the mountain, and Mount Panorama for that matter. And it's earned its reputation with really good reason. The 6-litre V8, okay, it's a fairly simple unit, but it's effective. 270 kilowatts of power, plenty of that V8 growl, plenty of get up and go. This thing really hooks along, gets to 100 k's an hour in less than 6 seconds. Never really feels like giving up. For overtaking, brilliant. We've got the manual version here, and look, it's a little bit clunky, a little bit heavy, but hey, it gets on with the job and it's got a big job to get on with. The SS also looks the part, no doubt part of the reason for its sales success. Through corners, the SS is pretty good. We've got the SSV here, so it comes with the bigger 19-inch wheels. Plenty of grip, miles of cornering grip, gets its power to the ground well and feels really planted and stable through the corners. Perhaps one tiny criticism, it could do with bigger brakes, but hey, you don't drive these things on the racetrack. Well, not every day anyway. Now when it comes to arch rivals, you don't get two enemies much more serious than the Falcon XR8 and Commodore SS. The XR8 is the direct competitor to the SS, and it lives up to the task in terms of styling. It's got that nice big muscular look, all the body add-ons that add a little bit more visual muscle, and the piece de resistance, the bonnet bulge, necessary actually to fit that big 5.4 litre engine in there. But there, Your Honour, is the first problem. Ford's worked pretty hard to get the V8 working well, and it now produces 290 kilowatts of power. Pretty good, or at least sounds pretty good. In practice though, very different story. The XR8 just doesn't have the go. It just does not feel as quick as the SS. Even though it claims more power, it feels heavier, more laboured, like it's really struggling. Don't get me wrong, it still goes pretty well. It still goes hard, you'll still get to 100 k's an hour in about 6 seconds, but it just doesn't have that effectiveness. 5 years ago, the XR8 would have been a pretty competitive car, but the game has moved on. Of course, the XR8 does sound like a typical V8, got that typical burble, but for me, it's just not loud enough. It's got this thing called a semi-active muffler, or a SAM, and it's supposed to make the engine really loud and beefy. From the inside though, you'd barely know it. You'd barely know anything's happening. It just sounds like a normal exhaust. I'll grant it, from the outside it is pretty good, and people, when the car goes past, well, they will notice something a little bit special. Through corners, the XR8 is a pretty solid beast, although you do feel the weight over the nose. It just, I don't know, seems to lean and fall over the front. Just doesn't feel as good as it should. You sort of get the impression that the XR8 is more about just keeping the V8 guys happy than anything else. It's now the only V8 in the Falcon lineup, and you can sort of see why. But at the end of the day, even if you do like V8s and you do like the latest Falcon, and you are going to go for performance Falcon, that's all fine, although the XR8 does have one big problem. It's called the Falcon XR6 Turbo. It's almost like everything the XR8 isn't that flash at, this thing is. Starting with, of course, the engine. It's a turbocharged version of the classic Falcon 4-litre inline 6-cylinder. But you would barely know it's a turbo other than the grunt. There is almost no turbo lag. Squeeze the throttle, all you hear is a little bit of a puff, a little bit of wheezing and whistling as the turbo gets going, and then the car's just off like a slingshot. For overtaking, fantastic. Feel that. And how do they make it sound better than the XR8? What's going on there? This really is a brilliant engine. It's got so much torque, more than 530 Newton meters, all available from around 2000 RPM, so you don't need to rev it. Squeeze the throttle, any gear, you've got grunt there, it's ready to go. And that's the other beauty of this car, the 6-speed automatic transmission. Really smart, really intelligent, really well tuned to the XR6 turbo engine. It's also really nice through the corners, feels better balanced than the XR8. Feels like a more alive car, like it's working with you rather than against you. You can just tell that the XR6 turbo is lighter and more nimble. The other thing with the Falcon is the interior presentation. It's now got so much more space, but it also looks a lot cleaner and a lot neater and a lot easier to use. I've got to tell you though, when it comes to basic proportions, where the wheels are, the corners of the car and all that stuff, still reckon Holden's got it nailed. That Commodore is a good looking thing. So where does that leave us? Well, frankly, the XR8 Falcon is pretty much bottom of this heap. It's not a bad car, it's just not what you expect from a V8 muscle car in 2008. The SS Commodore, on the other hand, well, that's an absolute cracker. It looks fantastic, it's great round corners, and the engine has plenty of muscle, plenty of burble, and really nice response. But I've got to tell you, the Falcon XR6 Turbo, it resets the benchmark. It's smoother and quicker than the SS, it also drives really well and is fantastic value for money. So who knows, maybe there is a new king of the Aussie muscle car mountain.